Hello everybody, I'm the Unconventional Grandma, bringing unconventional ways to solve everyday problems. Today our problem is going to be how to remove the sticky residue off of your glass jars so that you can use them well into the future for any number of reasons. I have a variety of jars. Some are just beautiful and I'd like to keep them for decorative uses, and some are just jars that I can use for storage in my pantry. I will tell you up front that these jars should not be used for canning. They do not have standard measurements, so your canning recipes may not turn out and be cooked as well as need be for safety reasons, and they may not withstand the heat. So don't use them for canning, but using them for dry goods, for decorative reasons, for gift giving, for Christmas gifts, gifts in a jar. You can have all those things at no cost to you because you've already bought the jars. You just have to get that sticky glue off and supersede the manufacturer's expectations, because most products are glued to the hilt. They don't want you to get that glue off. So let me show you some simple items that you can use to remove the glue and not spend all day doing it. Let's get started. First, you're going to need some olive oil or any kind of liquid oil. I use a very inexpensive olive oil with nothing special. Also, I use the Dawn Power Wash spray bottle. And this is so that we can cut the cost. If you're pouring out of the bigger jugs like this, you're wasting a lot of soap and it's a lot of effort when you can just buy the spray bottle and it does last a very long time. And the last thing that we want to have is a cover for our dish drain. We don't want all of these labels, all these pieces going down the drain because they are hazardous, and I would hate to see you have another problem that you have to solve after taking these labels off. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to fill our sink with some really hot water. I'm going to soak my labels for about 30 minutes. Once the labels are soft, I'll peel them off and we'll probably have the sticky glue residue left over, and I'll show you how we can get that off. So I'll be right back after I get my jars soaking. So here I have my sink being filled with extremely hot water, hottest that I can get out of my tap. I have my drain cover that I'm going to place over the drain after I get it filled up, so that I'm sure any of these label pieces that come off in the water will get caught by this. That's some really hot water, but by the time I actually start using it in about 30 minutes, it's going to cool down quite a bit. Just make sure that you soak these labels in the really hot water so that it will dissolve the glue as much as possible just from the heat of the water. You want your jars to be filled up so they heat up from the inside and the out, and they get penetrated really well with that hot water. And I put my Dawn soap, my liquid soap, in the water, get it nice and soapy, but after that we're not going to use that. We're going to use the spray and spray each of these jars after we start working on them. So in about 30 minutes we should be ready to start peeling those labels. So it's been about 10 minutes. Let's check the progress of our jars. See if there might be any that we might be able to start on early. We have this one here. This is just a jelly label, but look, it's peeling. So we can take some of this off. This looks like it's coming off really nicely. This is just, that hot water is just dissolving that glue, and it's coming off really pretty easily. Few little pieces. So we still have some glue, so we'll put this one back. Now, let's not forget this is really hot water, so we want to be careful with handling whatever our tolerance for this hot water is. But these are coming off really nice. We do have the glue on the bottom of them, but that's going to continue soaking. We kind of intervene. This one here, this one's coming off really well. It's a popcorn container that I had gotten at Christmas, and it's really, the glue is off. That paper label just melted. There's not a lot of glue. This manufacturer really does want you to reuse this jar. It's a nice little sealing jar. So we'll take that one out because it's completely done already. Now these are duck fat labels, and the labels that peel off of these look like this. And they leave a really nasty residue. It hasn't even begun to separate. It's just on there. There's some little spots that are just beginning to separate. So we'll leave these in there. Now, this one was the duck fat jar that I had originally just peeled that label off before I put it in there to demonstrate the amount of glue that's on the bottom of these things. And you can see this is some really tough glue. It's not separating, it's just on that jar. So because we have a few jars that are almost ready, this here has a glue residue on it, and we're just going to score that with our fingernail. Just try to, while we're letting the other ones soak, we'll work on these so we're not spending a really long time on it. The first thing we're going to do is take our olive oil, and we're just going to put a few drops on it. We're going to scrub it on there. Just take that olive oil and scrub it on here. And I take my fingernail and just kind of start scrubbing it and moving that glue. And this is why we have the cover on our drain, so that we can keep all of these particles that will go back into the dishwater from going down our drain. When you think that you've really scored it and you have this oil just penetrating down, you can let it soak for a minute while you just continue on. This label had a front and a back. The heat from the water has melted it somewhat and softened it, so we can just kind of take our nail and scrape along. I do have a scraper from Pampered Chef. I like it for most things, but not for this. It does not seem to really get underneath the glue. You can try a sponge with a little green scrubby on the outside of it, on the back side. I really don't like the scrubby part what happens with these scrubbies like this is the glue gets on there and you just ruin the pad. It's not going to work for anything after this. So I take the actual sponge part, kind of scrub on it a little bit. If the glue is melted and smearing, that's about the time you want to put your power wash on. So I'm just gonna spray a couple of sprays on there. And again, take my fingernails, scrub through this. You can feel where there's any kind of glue residue. It's not a lot of work. It just takes a minute for the soap to separate the oil that's attached to your glues from the jar. So we just scrub it around a little bit. I really think that most of it's off. So at that point, I'm going to take a rag and just kind of wipe through. The soap will come off, and once the soap comes off, you can see if there's any more glue. Using a rag, the glue generally gets wiped away instead of smeared. And you just kind of go through and clean your glass. Having hot water again helps to melt that, dissolve it. And this works well for most labels. My duck fat labels, I have not had great success with them. In that case, sometimes I'll just decide to leave the labels on and reuse them as is, or if I don't like them because I want to use them as something for a gift or a decorative purpose. You can put labels over your jars if you like them that way. Their own personalized label as well. I appreciate a clear glass jar that I can reuse for any number of purposes. This has a little bit, so I'm just going to take it, kind of work that around. You can see where the glue residue is melting. I found one of the most useful tools for this is my fingernails. So this jar here really has come a long ways. I'm pretty sure that my residue is off. If you have any questions about it, you can kind of run your fingernail through and run your rag over a few more times. And it's just a question of spending a little time to work off some of this residue, but it can be done easily. If you're really particular about it, you can go ahead and put it back into your soaking water, and that tiny bit of glue that's left will soak right off. So that's how you're going to remove the labels from your jars pretty effortlessly, low cost, and you'll get the enjoyment of having those jars for however long you want them, or giving them as a gift. But it's pretty easy to get them off get those labels off, get that glue off, and have a stockpile of them. And if you don't reuse your glass jars, you can always give them to a neighbor that does, like me. This is the Unconventional Grandma, showing you unconventional ways to solve everyday problems. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, share, and educate others on how to reuse your glass jars without the pesky labels.